All right. Good morning, everybody. This is Wednesday, February 15th. It's the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission meeting of this month, and please take the roll.
Commissioner Curran,
Here.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Here.
Commissioner Porter,
Here.
Commissioner Miletus,
Here.
Commissioner Revolve,
Here.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Here. Let's take the roll. The approval of the January 19th commission meetings. I'm sure the commissioners have read it. Is there any discussion? Any changes?
So moved.
Chair,
Chair.
I move to approve the January 19th, 2023 commission meeting minutes as written.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Porter,
Yeah.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Commissioner Revolve,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes. Before we go on to the first item, for those who don't know me, my name is Paul Rosenbaum, and I'm the chair of the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission. This is a little bit unusual meeting. I want to tell you and look at you straight in the face and tell you that this is the time and place for myself as chair and for this commission to respond to what's going on and the issues. And I think you'll understand very clearly after I'm done the position and what the functions of this commission are. The OLCC is a public body. Nothing can be done in private. Nothing can be done in private. Nothing can be done without a majority of the commissioners voting. In my opinion, we are the most open public agency in this state, bar none. The press and the public hopefully will understand after I get done as to why we haven't responded to you and what our positions are today. This board reviews an average of 200 pages, an average of 200 pages. Sometimes there's 400 and 500 pages that are given to us for a monthly meeting. There's so many issues involved in those 200 pages that we have to look at and understand and read. We are plain citizens. We are not employees of the state of Oregon. We are not paid by the state of Oregon for anything we do other reimbursement for travel, period. We read and make important decisions for this state only because we're concerned business people and we love the state and we're doing it as a public service. Please keep that in mind. And what do we do? What are the decisions that we make when we come in here with not all these people in this room, and I don't know how many hundreds are listening on here? Let me tell you what we do. One, this board reviews the licenses. We can revoke the licenses or give penalties to bar owners and restaurants. 10,000 bar owners and restaurants in this state. And we're responsible for revoking licenses. We're responsible for penalties. There's thousands and thousands of marijuana businesses in this state. This board is responsible, after reading 200 pages of documents and materials, to decide whether we revoke that license or whether we give penalties to it. Happens every month. There's thousands of them. We grant authority after anybody will tell you there's intense competition for people who want liquor stores in this state. And they come in front of us with presentations professional presentations you wouldn't believe. It's our decision to make a decision whether or not they get a license. Their whole futures at stake. Any store that's already in existence and wants to leave, it's our responsibility to put a new license in for them. And there's plenty of people who want those licenses. And this commission makes the decisions on it. I don't know if you know it or not, but we sit as a court of law. And if any marijuana owner or any liquor owner, bar owner, restaurant owner, they go in front of an administrative judge, and that administrative judge makes a decision. And if they don't like that decision, guess who they come to? They come to us to make a final decision on what their future is going to be. We authorize or reject hundreds of rules and regulations that are passed by the Oregon legislature. We have hearings after hearings. We bring public figures. We bring owners in the marijuana industry, owners of the liquor industry. We bring them all in here. We meet with them. We talk to them. We discuss it. And then, as a result of the Oregon legislature statutes, we make the final decision. Why am I telling you all this? Maybe because I want to educate the press, mostly important, the press who sends this out to hundreds of thousands of people. And of course, I want to educate the general public. What I'm about to tell you, I'm willing to bet, and I'm not a betting man, I'm willing to bet that there's no more than 2 or 3 people in this audience, and none of the press will understand what I'm about to say. Here's the point. None of these decisions are made in private. We are not allowed to talk to each other. We look at each other, and not all these major decisions, we're not allowed to talk to each other. I have no idea what these people are thinking. The only time I know what they're thinking on all these important issues is when we come into this room right here, right now, and discuss it in public. I know you didn't know that. I know the press doesn't understand that at all. Again, we are not allowed to talk with each other about any of these issues other than in this room in public. When the press asks us to comment, it's appropriate, in my opinion. It's appropriate in all this commission's opinion in light of what I just explained to you. When any decision is made or any comment needs to be made, we do it in public in this room as a commission. We have not dodged the press. We follow the rules. We follow our attorneys. We follow what we're supposed to do. So please, dear God, stop asking us to make comments on this. It's inappropriate other than now. This is the right forum. This is the right place. This is the right opportunity. Now, 2 very important questions that you've heard sometime in your life before. 1, what did we know? And 2, when did we know it? What did we know? Nothing. Nothing. There is not one person up here who knew a thing about the process, the procedure, the thing we're all discussing today. Not one. Not one. And if we didn't know about it, and we didn't, then how could we participate in it? We didn't. So stop asking questions about that. I'm telling you, nobody knew anything about this. Now, the next question is, when did we know it? 6 of these commissioners on this table right now did not know a thing about this issue until less than a week ago. Nothing. There is voluminous opportunity to read whatever you want to read. There is not a single bit of evidence. There's not a single scintilla of anything that any of the 7 of us knew anything about it. But the 6 of the other commissioners did not know about this until less than a week ago. Now, I'm chairman of the Liquor Control Commission, and my job and duties and responsibilities are a little bit different from the rest of the commission. I have what you would call some additional responsibility. I knew about this issue about September 8th of last year. How did I know about this issue? Rich Evans, and please do your homework on Rich Evans. Rich Evans is the former executive director of head of superintendent of the state police. Rich Evans, in my opinion, and I think anybody who knows him, is the most ethical, the most straightforward, the most no-nonsense individual you ever want to find in your life. Go check it out. He's impeccable in his word. And he was the ex-director of the state police. I guess you call him superintendent of the state police. He came to me and told me after the investigation was over, he came and told me about the investigation. And this is what he told me. 1, there was a full investigation. A full investigation. 2, there was a full finding of fact. 3, the full finding of facts were put in the employment record of each one of the individuals. Rich Evans did this because the executive director was involved in it and they needed to have a third party. So every single person involved in this, those full finding of facts was relayed to me that was put in the employment jacket of each one of those people. 4, I was told, and it was true, that according to Oregon statute, these people were disciplined. Now, here's the kicker to this whole thing. To me, I was told that this employment record was confidential. Let me say it again. It was confidential. Let me say it a third time so the press understands it more than anybody else. It was confidential. In this day and age, people think they can lie and it's perfectly okay. People think that confidential means that you breach it. You're looking at somebody when you say confidential, it means confidential. It means I am not going to break confidentiality. I'm an officer of the court as well. Confidentiality to me is extremely important. I understood everything involved in it. Now, 8 months later, when this blows up in the Oregonian, the New York Times, the New York Post, and everything else, you want to look at me and ask me, did I do the right thing? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I look at you and tell you without a doubt, this was the right thing to do. Confidentiality is confidentiality. You know what? All of these people, I'll only talk for myself. There's a $25 limit. I don't get paid for anything on this. There's a $25 limit on what you can take for a meal or something. I don't let people buy me meal. I rather pay my own damn money so I don't have to report it as a meal. We're the most ethical people you ever want to see. These are all wonderful people. They're all business people. They're all doing this as a matter of public service. Don't knock them. Don't call on them to say their integrity or their reputation is at stake here. It's not. We're looking at you straight in the face and tell you, we didn't do anything wrong. One other thing I want to say. None of you probably know my background. I was CEO of a major NASDAQ company with a hell of a lot more people than this agency. I had a full staff of HR people and I had a full staff of legal people. I sit on many boards across the country, public and private. I didn't want to take this job unless we have competent people in here, because my job and their job is not to micromanage the executive director of this agency. It's the last thing anybody who sits on the board wants to do. And we don't do that. We create policy, and policy is the important thing. Let's go on to the next thing. Let's talk about the governor's letter of February 8th.
Excuse me, Chair.
So,
I'm sorry. I was just wondering if we're going to be getting to the agenda at any point.
at the agenda, we're gonna get to the agenda after I finish my opening statement. Because my opening statement is in response to what we're doing here and the aggravation that we have taken. And I think it's important that we get this out. The governor's letter of February 8th. These commissioners have been bombarded saying we haven't acted fast enough on this issue. And that they're calling for them to resign.
Chair Rosenthal,
Yes,
if I may. So I don't think I have a placard, but to be clear, my name is Stacy Postgate and I'm contact counsel for OLCC and I am with DOJ. So the one thing I do want to make clear is that on the agenda, we don't have any mention or discussion of resignation of any employees or termination. And I think that's important. And it's very close to what we talked about public meetings, about these items need to be noticed. So to the extent that anybody in this room would like to talk about the potential termination or resignation of any employees, I'd like to ask that if we could save that for a future meeting when we've had an opportunity to give notice so that we can follow the public meetings law.
Commissioners, what I'm trying to do here, I will listen to it. What I'm trying to do here is to give a perspective of what this commission has been going through for the last week. Why the fact that we haven't responded in the press. I'm not getting into any of those issues. I'm getting into the procedural issues of what we did and how we acted responsibly. Do you want me to continue on this, or I'd be happy not to?
Chair Rosenbaum.
It's up to you.
On a lighter note, for our team here at OLCC, I'm not gonna be putting my glasses on or off, so you're gonna have to figure out how I'm playing poker today. Let's move on.
Okay.
Let's have a motion.
Is that the failing of the commission?
Yeah, it sounds like there's stuff we should maybe talk about later, but yeah, I think you could, I mean, you did great.
No, this is a majority. I'm fine with it either way. I just want the reaction of this commission. As I said, we do this thing as a majority.
I think we'll have time to address everything. I think we just, but I echo what you said up till.
understand.
Okay. Let's go on then.
Yes. So make that motion.
Oh, okay.
So we're gonna move on.
Craig
We
Brandis.
have a motion.
I think we need a
Motion that we
vote.
move on.
Yes.
Agenda.
We don't need a motion.
We don't need a motion for it. I have a feeling that's the majority of it. That's more, okay. So the next thing is the discussion of potential decision regarding the temporary administrative position pursuant to ORS 471.720 and delegation of commission authority is necessary. Do I have a motion,
Chair,
Commissioner?
I move to appoint Craig Krenz as interim administrator pursuant to ORS 4.
I think we need to have Mr. Prince come forward.
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
And,
we
Yes.
need to,
all right, Mr. Prince.
Sorry. Trying to cut down the- Thank you for coming here.
good morning.
Good morning.
I guess what we would like to hear is a little background and
Thank you.
after those 10 minutes of discussion on my part, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Members of the commission. Commissioner, I am going to put my glasses on so I can read some remarks I've prepared. So first of all, I appreciate being here. I want to thank the chair and all you members of the commission. My name is Craig Prinz. I currently serve as the Inspector General of the Oregon Department of Corrections. As you probably know, at the governor's request, should you select me, I've agreed to step down from that role as Inspector General of the Department of Corrections and serve as your interim director here at the OLCC, while the commission does the important search for a permanent director. In my current role as Inspector General, I work at the Department of Corrections. I wanted to tell you a little bit about that to get into my background. The Department of Corrections, as you know, has legal custody of about 12,000 folks. And when you have that heavy responsibility, public responsibility, you have to rely on your core values. Department of Corrections core values are integrity, professionalism, treating people with dignity and respect, maintaining safety and wellness for our staff, as well as the folks who are in our custody, making fact-based decisions, and trying to make positive change, honoring our history, and also, I think most importantly, what I emphasize as I sit before you today is stewardship of the public trust. So those are some of the values of the department that I've been working for the last 6 years or so. And although this assignment would be temporary, and I understand that, I would approach this work in the same way with those same values, with an emphasis on stewardship and leading with integrity and implementing and getting, positive change for your staff. And I think at this moment, that moving forward starts with just working fully and cooperating with the Department of Justice, Department of Administrative Services, who has the overall human resources perspective of the state enterprise, and really looking to implement the changes that I believe you want and the governor's requested. So a little bit about me. I'm an Oregonian. I'm from Grants Pass. I was born in Fresno, but moved to Grants Pass when I was 2. So I hope that counts. Grew up down in Southern Oregon, went to law school and came back to Oregon and started what has turned out to be a 25-year career in public safety and criminal justice. I highlight that because I've overseen investigations. I was a prosecutor in Multnomah County, so I've worked with state police on investigations. I've conducted hearings. Part of my role at the Department of Corrections, making sure due process is followed, listening to when there's misconduct that is alleged by adults in custody, also listening to the grievances and the discrimination complaints that folks in custody make, And then I've served on the executive team of the department that provides strategic planning and leadership for the whole department that I've served. So that's what I've done for the last 7 years, 6.5, 7 years. Before that, I've also worked for DPSST. So I worked at the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training, which certifies police officers and other public safety professionals. I was in charge of the certification and revocation of certification at the department. I worked with a commission before, I think successfully. I worked with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission, which sets criminal justice policy for the state. I worked with them for 10 years. I have that experience to rely on in working with a commission of citizens that are doing this public service, just as you've signed on to. And I also have worked for the legislature. I was a lawyer for the judiciary committees of the Oregon legislature. So we are in the midst of a legislative session, and I wanted to make sure you knew I have that experience too. So that's what I can bring to this role if I'm selected. And I've seen and worked with barriers, with agencies, those barriers that we need to address to serve the industries and the citizens that you all are, your role takes so seriously. And this moment provides us an opportunity to do that, to set a precedent on how our state government is going to respond, how we're going to correct course and strengthen accountability, oversight, and protocols to build that public trust that we've all been talking about this morning. The 25 years of experience have shown me you can't move forward. You have to go through, you have to progress through. Again, requires seeking wise counsel from many people, serving with, as the chair said, with transparency and a steady hand and accountability. And I also, again, I haven't had a chance to meet the staff, but I suspect that the staff here are like the staff we find throughout the state of Oregon. Good folks, good employees that are trying to carry out the daily work of this commission. And they also need to be heard and valued and supported as they do their work, especially in this climate. And because they're the ones ultimately that help all of us fulfill this commission's statutory obligations and provide the best service to Oregonians. So should you appoint me, again, I will rely on partnerships, the partnerships I have from my years of experience. I'll rely on those other public administrators that I've mentioned. I'll look to thought partners throughout the enterprise that'll help us to meet these challenges. And at the same time, I'll work with the governor's office and you all. I know that we need to identify the internal and external issues that led us to this point. I understand that that's been difficult for you, and it's certainly, I'm sure, been difficult for the staff. And we need to make sure an incident like this doesn't happen again. So together we can, I'm sure, ensure that the whole state government is better for what we've done and that we serve Oregonians thoughtfully. And so I'd like to use, if I'm chosen this time, to fix the issues at hand, go through these challenges with you, create a model for how to respond, and help this agency and other agencies through this type of difficult circumstance. With any change, it can feel like a whirlwind. You have to absorb some chaos. But as also with any change, you just have to acknowledge early challenges that we're going to face together. No change can happen without facing some of those challenges. But I think if we focus on that spirit of public service, we focus on the stewardship that we are required to honor and that we are entrusted with, I think we can find a way forward and put this commission and agency in a better place. And that's what I would be honored to do if selected. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and all of you for letting me make some comments. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Commissioners, any questions?
Couple. Well, thank you for stepping up and doing this. You come highly regarded and heard from a bunch of people who have great things to say. So again, thank you for stepping up. I really appreciate the values. I think we don't talk, any public business, but I think all of us have shared with each other. We've spent a lot of years trying to build this agency into something that can be respected and valued in this state. And I think somebody coming in and looking at this agency with a microscope, working with DOJ, working with the governor's office, and setting this thing back on the right course is exactly what's needed right now. And so with your past experience, with your values, I'm pleased with you coming in. I think it's important to note because there's a lot of people that depend on this agency, a lot of stakeholders, and it's just personal, but this was a whirlwind, as you said. And so I think, saying that this is on an interim basis is important, and it could be the right permanent, but I think that's good to note. And again, thank you for stepping up and kind of getting all of us through this, because there is a lot of great people here. We all care a lot about this, and we do this because we love the state. We love the stakeholders and the industries that we serve, and the values of this agency. So thank you for getting us on the right course.
Any other commissioners?
Sure.
I have no doubt, Commissioner.
I also want to thank you for stepping up. Make sure to keep your job open, just in case. For a number of years, I've bragged about Oregon. Oh, we didn't do what that state did. Oh, we didn't do what that state did. I'm not ready to stop bragging about Oregon and OLCC. We're going to need your help. I think anyone in this room that was ever in any type of athletic event, and in the middle of everything was going great, you stumbled. You tripped over your own shoelace. Someone bumps you along the way. You can either pull up and fake a cramp in your thigh, or you can keep going. So with your help, we're going to keep going. Because I have no intention to stop bragging about OLCC, the people in it, the state, the help from the legislature. Because I'm not ready to see us, under my watch, go down like Washington went down. So I can only speak for me, as someone has told me. If it's just speaking for me, I'm here to help. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for stepping up. You've come at a time that's certainly chaotic. You've heard the chair talk about all the shots that we're taking, and that's what we're here for. We're big guys, we can take it. You're stepping into a beautiful, beautiful agency. I've only been here a year, and I've sat on several boards and never been more impressed with the dedication of the employees here and their competence, their care for Oregon, their hard work, their value to us, keeping us on the right path. Absolutely, you're stepping into a great group of people, and they need to be acknowledged, because we're taking shots up here. They're sitting back there wondering what the hell's going on. And it's important that we get through all, I guess, my anger, my frustration, my surprise, my disappointment. Those are all valid emotions, and we can honor those. And I can understand how the people in the state of Oregon would honor those values or those emotions as well. And now it's time to move into action. And anger and retribution are not plans of action. They're not strategies. We're here to support this organization and these incredible employees who are standing tall in the midst of all of this to keep this billion-dollar agency operating while we do what we do up here. And I'm glad you're stepping into this. We will support you in any way we can. I just want to make sure the employees know that we're here for them as well, because they've been here for us for years. We've turned this, before I got here, turned this agency around from a jackboots operation.
I never
where-
said Jack Boots.
I think you said that, where we were not respected around the state. We were feared. And when we came into town, we'd hand out, I guess, penalties, and you shape up or ship out. What I've seen traveling around this state with these employees and with my fellow commissioners is an incredible reception from everybody we meet, from all the stakeholders, from the bar owners to the police, to the local community. We're working in collaboration and cooperation with them now as partners. Not power over, but power with. So when we make decisions up here, we're asking them, tell us, help us make these decisions, help us make these rules. So that's what we're trying to do. And we appreciate you being here. We appreciate everybody that's out here being here and hearing us. And I want you to hear those employees as well, because they're powerful. You're getting a good group here. So thank you.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have my 2 cents on this too. I served as vice chairman of the Port of Portland for many years under Governor Kulingowski. And I liked that because I learned something new every day, and it was a fantastic board, and I enjoyed it. So when Governor Brown asked me to become chair of the Liquor Control Commission, this was something new I can learn, but you never know what you're going to get into when you get started. I've been here, I guess 6 years now. I love this agency. I truly love the agency. I also, it's an absolute pleasure being with these people up here. They're all professional. Their integrity is beyond reproach, and we get along great together. We really do. So I didn't realize the scope and importance of this agency. This is what I'm telling you, because you're obviously a bright guy, and you're obviously very capable, and I was impressed with your resume. There's people out in this audience right now that are intimately involved in this business. So for the people who don't understand, there are 400 breweries in the state of Oregon. There's 1,000 wineries in the state of Oregon. There's 1,400 vineyards in the state of Oregon. The Oregon wine industry is worldwide recognized. It's fantastic. There's 70 cideries. I never knew there were 70 cideries in this state until I became chairman of this commission. There's 100 distilleries. There's 73 distributors in this state. And ladies and gentlemen, there are 10,000 bars and restaurants in the state of Oregon. 10,000. I just mentioned hundreds of thousands of jobs. Hundreds of thousands of jobs that are at stake. And the reputation of this commission and what we do is incredibly important for all those good, hardworking people in this state of Oregon who trust us, believe us, and rely on us. There's $14 billion in economic activity in the state of Oregon. 14 billion. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. $14 billion. this agency, the people in the agency, I literally have spent 15 to 20 hours in the last week and a half picking up the phone and personally calling the people in the agency and telling them how much I, as chairman, respect them, how much I want them to stay on, how much I do not want them to be discouraged, and how much we need them, and how much you need them going forward. And if and when this commission approves you, they're invaluable. I hope we're invaluable too, but they're invaluable. And you're going to come to understand and know that. This whole situation, it's unfortunate. Nobody wanted it. Nobody did. Nobody. You can feel it in every inch of our bodies that, we're here to help the governor. We're here to help the people in the state. But most important, we're here to help the people in this agency survive and prosper and go on. It's incredibly important. There's hundreds of thousands of jobs. This economy in Oregon, there's a lot of people depend on this agency and this commission. Yes.
Mr. Prince. It was nice meeting you finally. I got a good feeling about you. You're into woo-woo, but I just have two questions, one of which is a compound question. So the DOJ has agreed to sit in on meetings.
You have to talk a little louder.
All right,
Yeah, let me
I'll yell. Big mouth. The Department of Justice has agreed to sit in on meetings, monthly meetings. I'd like to know how you feel about that. And are you willing to facilitate training modules, which I understand are available for new commissioners and old commissioners? And if so, when? And how are you, second question, not a compound question, how are you planning on establishing a more conducive environment for everyone, not just staff, not just commissioners, but everyone, so that, we can have some sense of uniformity and leadership guidance. Too much.
I think I've got your questions, first one, I'm not familiar with the DOJ question, so I respectfully, I would love to talk to you about it more and get a better idea of what you're asking about. I want you to know, though, Commissioner, I have worked with DOJ a lot. I will rely on them in some way because this is going to be a challenging time. So I've learned to rely on our partnerships with the lawyers of the Department of Justice. But I'm sure we can talk about the specific question and try to get an answer for you if I'm selected. Training modules, training for how we can do our business together and with the staff. Totally would want to work on that. I think that's a great area. It's a long drive up from Salem to here. It's one of the things I was thinking about this morning as I prayed that the traffic would clear as we got closer. So I'd love to work on that. And making it a more conducive, I think it's making this a culture that's conducive to what we've all talked about. That's I think how we move forward. So I'd be glad to work on all three of those things with you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I think we now are Ready for a vote? Any final comments from you? Smart man.
Chair. I move to appoint Greg Prince as interim administrator pursuant to ORS 471.720 to serve on a temporary basis until the commission appoints a permanent administrator. This appointment shall be effective as of February 15th, 2023 at 5 p.m. and shall terminate effective immediately upon the commission's appointment of a permanent administrator at a later date as determined by the commission.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Dupont Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Commissioner Revolt,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes. Do I congratulate you or what do I do with you?
I have our sympathy.
Say-
Thank you very much.
We're looking forward to working with you and,
Whatever you
and,
need, you got it.
and thank you. I know you're going in this with your eyes open, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Overview of supply and demand report. TJ,
Chairman, just can I tell you, our video feed cut quite a while ago.
they what?
The video feed broke, and so if we want to bring it back up, we'd have to take a break or we can.
Let's take a 5-minute break then. Well, the room is cleared out and we're back in session. The only important people are left in the room now. All right. Overview of supply and demand. TJ, you've got the floor.
Good morning, Chair.
Good
Commissioner.
morning.
TJ Sheehy, Director of Analytics and Research for the OLCC. On to the day-to-day business with a wonky graph-heavy report. Do we have the slides?
Yeah, well, we're just working on that. Those TVs to work.
Oh, I gotta get my. You give me the-
There they go.
Well, while we're waiting for the video, TJ, I just want to personally say thank you, Nathan Ritz, Danica Foster, Mark Pettinger, and yourself for stepping up during this chaotic whirlwind of a time. Thank you for stepping up and keeping this ship afloat. So thank you.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Appreciate the sentiments. I'd also like to thank those three in particular and all the other staff that have been working day to day. This last week, the week before, and the week before that. To make sure that we're doing the business of the state force.
Thank you.
It's trying,
Okay,
it's thinking, we'll see. If not,
well,
you know.
What are we waiting for now?
Machine.
The video?
for me to be able to see.
It's got everyone but this one.
Okay, I got it up here.
TJ, do you want to trade places with me because I have a screen?
How many people were on this thing?
I think I saw 106 at one time.
Okay. As I said, TJ Sheehy, Director of Analytics and Research for the OLCC. Next slide, please. So I'm here to give an overview on the biennial supply and demand report. So this is a report that we've done February 1st of each odd numbered year. I believe the first one was 2017, done that every 2 years since. So our task legislatively is to do an estimate of how much is produced by OLCC producers, sold by OLCC retailers, and how much those two are in equilibrium with each other. So since 2019, we've created a methodology to do that, where we essentially take what's sold, walk it back through a various set of estimates to what the wet weight equivalent of that product was. So whether it's an edible, concentrate, extract, usable, whatever it is, walk it back to how much wet harvest would have had to be taken down in order to make those products that were sold. Then we compare to the actual harvest in that year, and we estimate how much supply versus demand is in balance with each other. So there's a link there to the most recent report in all its glory. There's also at the bottom there a link to our monthly data that covers sales, harvests, wholesale prices, things like that. That's updated on our website each month. Next slide, please. So top line summary, in 2022, demand was 63% of supply, which actually was a pretty significant improvement over 2021. And in terms of that number, 2022 was actually like 2020, which was a big. 2022 was not a healthy year in market in terms of prices and sales. And so the report spends a lot of time sort of unraveling that paradox of how is it that the supply in annual terms was so much better, the market continued to deteriorate in terms of the business climate. And so despite the improvement in that supply demand balance, wholesale prices are still very low. Stockpiles of inventory are extremely high. Our number of licenses continue to go up, even with the moratorium. And really all this comes down to demand still growing, but not by as much as it used to. And so unlike a year like 2018 or 2019, when the market was going down in terms of prices and things like that, the demand was making up for that. And so our sales continue. That's not the case now. Next slide, please. So you can see in two graphics here, the story of sales. So on the left-hand side is sales in terms of overall dollars. And you can see that the market peaked in spring of 2021. So April or so of 2021. And it's been on a downward slide since. On the right-hand side, you can see the year-over-year change in sales. And we haven't had a year-over-year growth since spring of 2021. It's been lower. So, you know, 2022 was lower than 2021, et cetera, for each successive month. Yes.
Can you explain something to me? How are the number of licenses increasing with the moratorium?
So that's in large part, almost entirely, because we, dating back to 2018, we instituted a pause in the processing of new license applications. And we had a big flood before, I think it was June 15th, 2018, people submitting their applications to get in under that wire. And so every moratorium that's been implemented since has still allowed for the processing of that backlog of applications. And so that's why we continue to have this growth. This shows the quantities of sales. So the dollars are going down, but the quantities are going up, although marginal. Right? You can see the large amount of growth through 2020 each successive year in terms of the quantities of products being sold. And it's still going up now, but not by nearly as much. And I do want to know for the record that there was an error in this graph in the report. So this is the correct graph. We just have not had the opportunity to correct it in the report. But this is the graph that will be replaced in the report because of that error. Next slide, please. So despite quantities going up, total dollars of sales are going down, and that's because of the price. The price, this is just for usable marijuana, but the same, not quite to this extent, but the same is true for for concentrates and extracts too. Prices continue to go down. So you can see on the left-hand side the full history of retail price per gram of usable marijuana. You can kind of see the story of the market sliding significantly in 2018 and into 2019, recovering, especially during COVID, and then doing sort of a gentle slide back down now to record low prices on the retail side, which is good for consumers, obviously, bad for businesses in this market environment with their margins decreasing. And I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but right now what we're seeing is in 2019, those low prices introduced a lot more people into the recreational market. So you had people who maybe had never tried marijuana before. It was becoming more sort of legitimate, right? Stepping into it as those prices went down. We also had illicit market consumers who were coming into the market because the recreational market, the legal market was better able to compete with the illicit market. We don't have those people on the sidelines in terms of consumers like we used to. So the people who have transitioned to the legal market, in large part, they've already done it. The people who have entered the market for the first time largely have already done it. So as these prices have gone down, it hasn't had the same quantity effect to induce new customers to enter our legalized market. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the wholesale price that mirrors the retail price as well, where we have a significant slide. And on the producer side, that's causing them to struggle quite a bit.
Do you know, excuse me for a sec, do we know what's happening in the illegal market? And are we having any impact of knocking it down or?
Commissioner Dowery, we have survey data. We don't have any direct measurable data.
They're not reporting to us, are they?
Sorry. What was that?
They're not reporting to us, are they?
Well, so I mean, it's kind of funny that there's a federal survey where you're supposed to tell the federal government to use marijuana. So that comes with its own challenges of telling the federal government, yes, I'm using an illegal drug. But there's other surveys too. So there's the ICPS, I'm probably going to butcher the acronym. I think it's the International Cannabis Policy Study. Out of University of Waterloo, which is becoming one of the best surveys out there of consumers and non-consumers. So there's a lot of surveys out there, not just the federal one, but other ones as well. And so we can kind of put the data points together and get a sense of it. And the sense that we can get is historically, Oregon has done a great job of transitioning those consumers over. Somewhere around 85 to 90% of consumption is from our legal market. So that's good. So it's not so much that we're not doing a good job, it's just that those people have come over. And so the price effect isn't going to bring more people over if they're not already here as much.
Thank you.
And so again, this is the paradox of why are we, we're seeing marginal quantity increases but sliding prices. Why, if this year was more in balance in terms of supply and demand? And really, this gets into a story of, supply is two different things. It's flow of supply, so annual supply that comes into the system and owns in a single year. But there's also stock of supply. There's stockpiles of inventory that carry over year to year. And you can see, this is a monthly harvest graph. You can see a few things. One, October is a huge month for harvest in Oregon, and that's because about 85% of our square footage, our production square footage, is outdoor. And so that comes down really in a single month. You can also see a huge drop off. I think it was somewhere around 20 or more percent in October of 2022 compared to October of 2021. And so the annual supply did go down quite a bit, which is why that supply demand balance the supply and demand is more in balance in 2022 than 2021. But you can also see how big 2021 was. And so all of the story of 2022 is really the overhang from that glut of supply in 2021. And I'll also talk about this a little bit later, but really, I think the story of Oregon's market throughout its history since 2016 is our large outdoor production canopy means that we have a market that responds to market signals, but on a significant lag. So we have outdoor producers making planting decisions based on how the market is doing in April. And if you remember from the sales graph in April 21, the market was doing pretty well, but they're harvesting in October. So they're selling into an entirely different market than what they planted into. And so in October of 2021, the market had already started to shift with prices going up. And then we took down a huge glut of a harvest on October 2021 and accelerated that slide on prices. And so even though there was a correction in 2022, we have a lot of supply still splashing around left over. Next slide, please. And you can see it here. So this is the stockpile inventory on January 1st of each year. So you can see January 2021 jumped over those 12 months into January of 2022. Not quite doubling, but almost doubling in terms of the amount of product throughout the supply chain. And so you can see how much that October 2021, especially harvest, had on the stockpiles of inventory throughout the supply chain, and that's still sticking. The same is also largely true for extracts and concentrates, and I won't get into it as much. The report untangles this a little bit more, but the other problem facing producers in particular is in the past, processors have been a sort of safety net or kind of a release valve for their supply, because processors would take in that supply for their processing. But now they already have a lot on hand. They have a lot of extract and concentrate. They have a lot of usable marijuana, as you can see in this graph. They just don't need as much. And so there's a lot more usable marijuana inventory that's not only in the supply chain, but stuck at the beginning of the supply chain with much fewer outlets out. Next slide, please. And this illustrates the increase in licenses we've had over time. And actually, I think I missed the title on this. This is producers and retailers, not processors, but producers and retailers each month. And you can see it's continued to go up. And it's not included here, but in the report, there's another graph that shows the percentage of these license types that are actually operating, and it's continued to go down. And so even though we're giving out more licenses, a lot of people, just because they can't hire people because they don't have the margins to do it, are turning out the lights. But we still have the applications that we're processing from, as I said before the moratorium, that are still being processed, and people still want to enter this market. Next slide, please. So what does this mean? Oregon is a great place to grow marijuana. We have a comparative advantage in producing marijuana. That's why so much of it, of our square footage, is in Southern Oregon outdoor production. But so supply is pretty much boundless, right? But demand is bounded by in-state consumption because they're federal, right? And so that's always going to be the dynamic until that federal framework changes. And as I said before, because of that high proportion of outdoor canopy, our market does respond to market signals, but on a lag. And so you did see a correction in 2022 compared to 2021, but the problem is 2021 was a big year where people sort of planted in one market and sold in another, and it created these problems we're living with now. The third point here, I mentioned it briefly. A lot of the scaling back of harvest was because of licenses, producers going dormant, turning out the lights. The risk we do have is if those market signals do improve, those licenses still exist to turn those lights back on and harvest again and create a potential another harvest flood like we had in 2021. So although we had a self-correction last year, that doesn't mean that we're not going to continue to go through this cyclical cycle of market rebounds, licenses respond, but over-respond, and then we have another slide. And then, as I mentioned before, we just have fewer potential customers, and so lower prices aren't having the same sort of quantity effect that they would have had a couple of years ago, which means we still have a lot of supply splashing around, and it's going to continue splashing around in the supply chain.
Can I ask a question? How do we compare to other states? And is this similar to what's going on here?
Commissioner Doherty, thank you for the question. Yes, I mean, this is the story of the mature markets right now. So California, Washington, Colorado, all had fairly significant declines in sales. I don't know if it was for the first time necessarily, but we're all going through the same cycle.
Yeah.
I also read this morning that in Canada, their wholesale prices dropped, I think, 40% year over year. So, you know, I'd also mention that as a caution of the federal barriers doesn't necessarily mean that those coming down is going to solve the problem, because one potential future here is that marijuana becomes a commodity product, and there's just not a lot of money to be made on those commodity
Yeah,
products.
but with all due respect, I got to break in for a second. It's comparing apples and oranges to a certain extent with other states. I'll get into it later on. What we have and the soil we have here, the difference is amazing when you start looking at what we are selling in state and what we can and do once the laws change. So we're being totally more affected than any other state on a percentage basis. And I think, it's fair to say that you and I both know that.
Chair, yes, absolutely. Thank you for those comments. I mean, I don't want to end on sort of a Debbie Downer note, right? Because there
Well,
is.
I'll say it afterwards, but I. Go ahead.
I mean, I think there is a lot of opportunity for growth as well. I mean, I think this market environment and the environments we've had in the past have been crucibles for the industry. And so the people who emerge from it are going to be extraordinarily well positioned for a national market.
Sure.
I think the brands that we're creating here all throughout the supply chain are going, many of those are going to be nationally dominant brands.
Commissioner,
There's some issues there. I think it's important for us to talk about that you need to know about as well, as far as one, part of the issues that we're facing can be tied directly to the industry itself. So this is where I get to be the old guy. And when Matt and I were here, is that the industry, i.e. the medical industry, did not want control at all. And they pushed for a number of developments that were not sustainable. Or wherever you want. The original laws allowed us to regulate more closely to the liquor industry that we're in. How many licensees, where they could go, how they could work, all of that. Big pushback. The legislature changed the rules as to what we could do. Let's fast forward 9 years. We all get phone calls now from everybody in the industry. How come you don't stop this? How do you allow so many stores to be in Eugene on every corner? We originally had rules that said they could only be so close to one another. We originally had rules that said how many could be done. Municipalities saw a whirlwind of money. Originally, they wanted 30 to 40% tax on top of all that. They got 3%. This is something we're going to have to face in the future because the municipalities are pushing that they want to have full carte blanche to tax anything, which will force the price to be higher than the black market. Okay, so they have stores everywhere. Now we're seeing the fact that we have people who only saw a bonanza. They didn't have markets to sell to. They didn't have a place to store it. Coming from the Midwest, the tobacco farmers are not going to let you store your marijuana in their sheds. It sits on the ground. So those are that's right there. The fact that we have our own analysts can be tracked back to Brian, there you are. Yeah. The liquor industry told us about analytics because we didn't know about analytics, about anything. So we took that information they gave us about analytics, about where to put liquor stores, how to have people apply for it. Oh, and in that first year, 17 stores in the first go around, 17 to change what we were doing. I say this because these were the types of relationships we built in that scenario. So we have an own analyst. And everyone talks about when feds come in, but what we haven't talked about is that we get revenue off of retail. If I'm RJR Reynolds and I want to buy 100 million pounds of cannabis, you think I'm gonna go to a retail store and buy it? I'm gonna go to a farm, get it wholesale. Do we have taxes on marijuana at the grow? No. Originally, we did. It was supposed to be that way. That got changed by the industry. So the things that we're looking at right now, it's not going to be, yeah, there'll be a lot of people who make a lot of money, but there's going to be a lot of state revenue that is going to go away. Welcome to our world. You may want to run. Those are the partnerships we developed. So we have an analyst. Those are the issues that someone, not me, needs to, where's Rosie? Needs to go to the legislature and ask for changes in how taxation, because I did go to a seminar where we're talking about alcohol and ATF was talking about how they tax stuff. And someone says, well, where do you think we're going to tax marijuana? And she said, probably where it's developed to grow. So I see these reports and perhaps I'm a little jaded because I get these phone calls downtown at the DAC. Why don't you do something about all these marijuana stores right across the street from my store already? And I've been there since I was in medical. And I say, oh, you're crying to the wrong guy because we tried. So those are changes in that situation. And then here I am. We have an entire group of population who've never been allowed access to the marketplace. Non-represented. 50% of the population in this room, women, weren't allowed or edged out. So we can simply say, oh, that's too bad. That's market trend. But it's not too bad. And we are being looked at as how do we make that right? You know, how do we make that right? I'm not a sociologist. So these are things that we have our own analysts, but these are other issues that we need to address as OLCC. That nationalization is only going to create some additional problems, and we need to be aware of it. Because RJ Reynolds is waiting. Constellations, who bought most of the indoor grow operations in Canada, they took that 40% drop. Their stock took a big hit. Those losses, and they still own 40% of the in-grow operations in Canada. So,
You know, Commissioner, you have said this at least 10 times. I never get tired of hearing it. It is really important for people to understand the sanity that this commission had and where we were cognizant of where it was going and that institutional history. And I never get tired of hearing it again because that was the truth. Thank you.
yeah, talk to my sons. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So that's it. I guess one closing comment I make, just looping back, Chair, to what you were talking about. I'm proud to work for what I think is the premier cannabis regulator in the United States. And, you know, looking back to what was said before, I think that's testament to the staff that we have here. There's a lot of challenges, obviously, and I would say we're up for them. We rolled with every punch so far. Mistake.
Yeah, and well, commissioners have anything else to say?
Great job. I mean, yeah, what this highlights is Oregon we're seeing similar trends around the country, but Oregon is unique. Oregon was the most mature open market because other markets had kind of a lottery system where they only let a few people in. And so what you're seeing is, and it's scaled back, but what you're seeing is the free market at work in Oregon. And this is going to be, you know, a decade-long thing to kind of hit its stride. And I think there's things we can do, but there's some of us that have tried to give counsel, and you know, in some sense, all we could do is agree with what the stakeholders were wanting at the time. And you know, I sometimes compare us to lifeguards to a certain extent, because this is the deep end of the pool and a lot of folks have jumped in, and when they come to us, we do the best we can to help them out. So this is great work, and to echo your comments, the work the staff has done with our national counterparts through organizations like NABCA has really been huge for the entire country. And so thank you for that. And I think that you're correct that the work that has gone into this will set Oregon up to be a leader in the future. So thank you, everybody, for participating in that, for this, and we'll keep on chugging along and get through this.
So we had a hearing in Southern Oregon, and the auditorium was full. And I made the comments, and they were talking about this very issue on prices and the tough times that they were having. And I made the issue at that time and succinctly stated that you have to, in this day and age, you have to plan 5 years ahead on a business or else you're gonna go broke. You have to understand what the trends are and where it's going, and you have to understand every penny. And people in that room, all of them growers, looked around and said, we're hurting. And I said to them, yes, you are. But you're all staying in this game for one reason, is that the federal government, whether it's this term or next term, they are going to recognize marijuana on a 50-state basis, and the legislation is going to change. And Oregon is to marijuana, Southern Oregon is to marijuana what Bordeaux is to France.
Mhm.
And there's no question about it. And when we're regulating this industry today on a in-state basis, tomorrow it's going to be an interstate basis. And what we have in this state is magnificent, and it will be wanted, and it will change the whole outlook of all these numbers, whether it's this year or next year, it's going to happen. And those charts and those numbers will be significantly different. And I think you and I both know that. So there is very much hope in here. There is very much different situation. There is some very much different revenue stream that's coming in the future. And we need more, not less regulation when it comes, because they're relying on us. There are 99% good players like in everything else, and there's 1% horrendous players. And for that 1% horrendous players, this commission needs to stay on their toes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, TJ.
Okay. My favorite friend. Come on up, Brian. Boy, you've been quiet lately.
Normally I bring my computer, but with all the ruckus, I just have a simple matters before you today. You've done.
And Brian, let me stop you 1 second. On behalf of the commission, let me thank you for your professionalism and what you do here. Thank you.
For the record, Brian Fleming, Director of Retail Services. I have 24 retail sales agent renewals. 11 of these are for a 5-year renewal. The remaining 13 are for 10 years. And as you know, we come before you 4 to 6 months in advance. These are the contracts that will begin effective July 1 of 2023. Happy to answer any questions.
What's the difference between the criteria for the 5 versus the 10 year?
It's in here, but I'll briefly describe. No, it's fine. So contract renewal 5-year agreement is for a satisfactory store. We do an annual evaluation. You have to have 2 of your last 3 be outstanding, and then you get a 10-year contract renewal. So 5 and 10 for outstanding satisfactory.
Nothing else, but just curiosity all these years. Some of these people own more than one store.
Chair Rosenbaum, yes, as a matter of fact, you'll see a few on here. As you know, we do business at C&K Markets.
Right.
Small Southern Oregon grocers, from brief look, it appears there's a couple of these that are dual stores. But as you recall, some of them, you won't see them at the same time.
Right, that's my
because they
question.
Yes.
Yeah, that's my question.
In
They're
this
not at the same
example,
time. Okay,
the ones on page 2 for the C&K Market,
now you answer my question.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
this is
appreciate
the
it.
result of expansion, so thank you.
Okay,
May I make a motion?
yeah,
Okay.
I was just gonna ask.
That's a
you.
question.
Okay.
For motion. So for our licensees, as it relates to crime, because that's been an issue all over the state, and particularly with liquor stores. We met recently to discuss the issues, you know, Rich and I and several other individuals talk about what's happening in that area. And you know, before anybody else is dangerous and it's terrible. The reality of it is that as much as you'd like to see Rich and I put on those old uniforms, which won't fit. Rich's will fit, mine won't fit. We don't have enforcement authority. We have to depend on local law enforcement and prosecutors. And this is where I get to say, I'm gonna throw some of the prosecutors under the bus. Not the used to be prosecutors, they were good. If they won't prosecute certain levels of crime because of the value that was happening, and the law enforcement personnel won't investigate, it makes a very frustrating position for us to be in. And what I'm going to ask for is your help, the licensees, all of the ones that are around the state, 200, 300 of you. They will push back, and they are going to push back. I expect to get a nasty gram anytime now. We have to have your input to your elected officials to force those individuals to take action. I need your help. Now, I do not want you to get into a fist fight or a wrestling match with some 200-pound gorilla walking out with a case. Don't. Period. Don't pull anything from under the counter. Don't grab a bat. Just take photos. But I need your help. So when I get the nasty gram, I can say, wait a minute, see these 200 sign-ons? Do something. Do your damn job. Prosecute, investigate, put patrol units out. Become officer friendly. Get officer friendly out there. Because this is a dangerous situation. And if we don't have your help, someone's gonna get hurt. Now you can make your motion.
With that, I move to approve the renewal of the 24 agent agreements listed above in our materials.
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter, Commissioner Melenas.
Yes.
Commissioner O'Gall,
Yes,
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
thanks, Brian. Purchasing report, Melissa?
Good morning, Chairman Rosenbaum and Commissioners. For the record, I am Melissa Spaeth, the Purchasing and Inventory Coordinator. I'm here today to present before the Commission the product listing for activities for the months of November, December, and January. Under tab 1, you will find the detailed list of the product activity during this period. Staff recommends that the Commissioners confirm the 36 items on the list. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yeah, I certainly do. These are new products, right?
The majority of them are. Some of them were special orders that have been moved over to trial listings. They've gone to the listing committee and the listing committee has decided to list them. So they've moved over to a trial listing, which is more of a regular listing status.
Okay, so I'm taking this opportunity to to take about 1 minute for those people who do not understand how we operate on the Liquor Control Commission. The OLCC currently is the wholesaler and the retailer of the product. The OLCC buys the product and warehouses it. The state sets the retail price. We send that product. This is very important. I want people to understand this before we walk out of this room. We send that product to 290 liquor stores in the state. The liquor store sells that product for the state. They have absolutely no ability to set the retail price on that. This commission does that. Why am I spending that time doing that? Well, first of all, before I get into that, tell me how you decide What's a trial?
So we have a listing committee that consists of liquor agents and staff. We meet 5 times a year. Products are presented to us for listing. They're looked at based on sales history through special orders, if they're unique products, if there's a category need, and then our liquor agents and our retail service staff vote to determine what products should be brought in as a trial listing.
And this commission, as a result of the process that we're presently using, there are many, many, many products on the shelves across our liquor stores, correct?
Yes,
And we set the price on that product.
yes.
So if this commission, and more important, if this process wasn't in existence, individual grocers or people outside this commission would set their own prices on the products,
Correct.
and individual stores that are selling the product in the state can only determine what they want to see, which would be the best sellers of that product, correct?
Yes,
So there is a difference between the protection on the price of the product for the state of Oregon because of this commission, and there is a difference between the product selection that the people in the state of Oregon can have. Is that correct?
absolutely.
All right. So when we're looking and giving an approval of this, you're looking at that and you're adding more products for the selection of the people in the state of Oregon.
Yes,
I just wanted to make that very clear because even people in the legislature have asked the process, what is the system? How does the system work? I hope that I sufficiently made clear, not only to the public, but members of the legislature, there is a vast difference in the system for the protection of the people of Oregon between the stores that we have in a control state and the open states in which the only products are out are what the people who sell them determine to be at the price they want it. I rest my case. I just want that to be known very quickly.
Melissa, I have a question for you. Many years ago, I participated in a presentation by those who wanted particular liquors brought into the state. Has that process was, that committee that you talked about dealt with presentations by those liquor companies as to how they would introduce it? Is that process still similar to that when someone wants to send their product to the state of Oregon?
it's still very similar. The only change really has been during COVID, the meeting switched to virtual, but the process is basically the same. They come in and they have time to present to us and showcase their product, and then the listing committee has time to vote on those.
So they would, so if you could go through that little process, what do they do? What do they present, and how do they present their product to the state?
So they send samples of their product. They submit information on their sales, if it's special order, their sales here in Oregon or surrounding states, what their maybe competitive brand is, if there is any, and what their marketing strategy is. That's a big part of their presentation. They're given 5 minutes to present their product, and that we have several products at every listing meeting. And then at the end of the meeting, the committee votes to determine which products they feel should be brought in to Oregon. I will say, to kind of piggyback on the chairman's comments, Oregon is also a state that we have so many special orders for products that maybe aren't listed in Oregon, but can be shipped to Oregon that we will bring in for consumers. So we have a very, very wide variety of product here in Oregon.
So the one I participated in sticks in my mind because the product wasn't selected. And they then wanted to complain that the organization was racially prejudiced. I loved that one. And change, things have changed. You could actually taste the product back then. It was terrible. And so for all those who want to know if I ever had any liquor from Oregon, I have. As a participant and advisor for a very terrible thing. And that lawsuit went away, by the way. But I just wanted to make sure that we knew what the process is. It was still that kind of process, but I have things that so.
Yes, it is.
So, thank you.
Just needed to clear the air there, huh?
Now the audience and the public is getting to see how we operate here. Any other questions? Any comments? I need a motion, please.
Chair. I move
Commissioner,
to confirm the 36 items for November, December, and January.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're up to rules. The final action on the advertising in retail liquor stores. And you want to do it now, Matt, or?
I prefer, I don't know if we're gonna push both of them. I definitely know I've had, with the last week, typically, the metric one is a big deal. I know there's a lot of people very excited about it, spent years working on it. And I think the staff's excited about it as well, because it represents a lot of work for staff. There's, when it came out last week, there's stakeholders that are seeing it for the first time, just reaching out both for and against, and just, I want to be sure we get this really right, because this is years worth of work. Unfortunately, the last week we've slightly preoccupied, so haven't got to do the stakeholder engagement. I think we otherwise would have liked to. So if we can push that, it would be to next meeting. But it would be much appreciated. And I don't know if anybody has any issue with the advertising in the retail store. That one was pretty cut and dry, and it was legislation versus internal. So I don't know if anybody has an issue with that, but the marijuana one was the only one I prefer.
But I personally agree with you. With no objection, we'll pass on the metric batching tag. And by the way, that whole issue is going to change with interstate commerce on it too. So let's postpone it for a month at least, and let's just deal with the advertising and the thank you, Commissioner.
Should I make a motion to move to defer? So
let's take them separately and then you'll do it. Let's just deal with the advertising in the retail liquor store first. And do we have any comments?
I don't have any issue with that. I think that's
I
a
think
good idea.
that is wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we've all read it. There's no comments on it. I need let's take a motion on the advertising in the retail liquor store.
Chair,
Commissioner?
I move to amend OAR 845-015-0177, effective March 1st, 2023.
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter.
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus.
yeah,
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes. Okay, Matt, you're up on the metric batch tagging.
I move to defer OAR 845-025-1015-2070, 7520, 7570, and 7580 until our next commission meeting.
Any discussion?
Commissioner Curran,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japon Porter.
Yes.
Commissioner Miletus,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Well, I didn't have.
That was easy enough. All right, we're going on into compliance. And but let's do the alcohol ones first. And Michael, good morning, both of you. This is a pleasure to see you today. It's always
In person.
in person. We're impressed.
In a while. So Chair Rosenbaum, members of the commission, I'm Michael Shine, lead worker in the Administrative Hearings Division. With me is Director Musial, our Director of the Hearings Division. And we have 10 alcohol stipulated settlements to propose to you for your approval. You have to answer any questions you may have.
Surprisingly, I have no questions.
Anybody have any questions at all?
Chair.
Commissioner, this has been a incredible journey for us. And it's one of the things that has been very beneficial. When we first started out, this was not an easy process. We wanted to, I'm not going to say find people guilty, but we needed to be educated at the beginning. And the time and effort that the staff took to educate us on these issues, we now know the difference between what we should be looking at, what we shouldn't be looking at. And we have spent a great less deal of time over the last year and a half as a result of being educated. So thank you for that.
Well educated, but if I also may add too, I think that you guys are doing a phenomenal job of putting a little bit more information into the synopsis. So when we read it, we have a little bit more insight as to what's going on. So a testament to also that as well. Thank you.
Yes.
Commissioner.
And with that, I would say too, we try and strike that balance of not being a rubber stamp, as the chair has pointed out, but also making sure that we respect a lot of the work that goes into by the agency in reaching these settlement agreements and understanding that there's a lot of things sometimes that we don't see. So I vote to ratify the 10 stipulated settlement agreements as proposed by staff for the alcohol violations.
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japan Porter.
Yeah.
Commissioner Melinas,
Yes.
Commissioner Eval,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. And on behalf of the Administrative Hearings Division, we have 2 stipulated marijuana violation settlements proposed to you for approval. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners?
No questions. for me.
No, we're batting 100% today. Huh? This is
Chair.
Commissioner.
I move to ratify the 2 stipulated settlement agreements as proposed by staff.
Commissioner Kern,
Yes.
Commissioner Doherty,
Yes.
Commissioner Floyd,
Yes.
Commissioner Japan Porter.
Yes.
Commissioner Melinas,
Yes.
Commissioner Eval,
Yes.
Chair Rosenbaum.
Yes. From the administrative point of view, I am certainly not going to ask our new acting administrator to comment on any of these things, but as a personal privilege, Nathan, thank you. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you for stepping up. And you've done a very professional job. I, for one, because of my business background, appreciate the way that you stood up. If you want to, thank you both. We appreciate it. Nathan, if you want to say anything at all, I think you should come up here and say whatever you want to say. And if you don't, I understand that too.
Thank you for the appreciation.
Well, we want to appreciate and recognize the fact that this has been an extremely difficult time. And thank you for your service on it. And thank you for everybody else. Danica, Mark, I'm not letting you go. Thank you. You know, TJ, we already thank you. Brian, we thank you.
Rich.
And
Laura?
He's in the back.
so,
Rich is in the back too.
yeah,
Thank you. I know I miss people. I apologize. Just thank you.
Indeed.
Commissioners, you've got the floor for the last word before we adjourn.
Chair, I do want to say something before you.
Yeah, see, don't be so quick on the hammer. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Chair, I would like to just take a very brief moment, since we are on the record and we only meet once a month, so we don't get very much opportunity to say this, but I think I liked Commissioner Revol's sports analogy, and so I'm gonna borrow that we've all hit a rough spot, and whether it's we're running the marathon and we're feeling tired, or we stumble, or you're in the football game and you have an interception, whatever you're doing, and you have a setback, and now's the time to kind of reevaluate things. And oftentimes in those situations, they get better. And so I am hoping you have my full support. And so I want to say to Mr. Prince, our new executive director, interim executive director, you have my full support to work with you on making sure that we have a good culture here, that we can improve, we can get better from this, and that we can work together. And I echo also what Commissioner Doherty has said about anger and sadness and frustration that we've all felt over the last week. And we've all felt the range of emotions. And I hope that that we can pick ourselves back up, and that we can move forward together and do great things for the state of Oregon. And with that said, I also want to say, you know, I am here. I can drive here from Pendleton, Oregon, and from Eastern Oregon. I'm here for the state. I'm here for the agency, and I'm here for everybody who works here every day. And what these folks have said about, there are a lot of great people in this agency that have been working really hard, and I don't want that to overshadow some of the reports that we've heard in the last week, because there have been days that I've been driving home and I'll call my husband and I say, gosh, I wish that there was somebody here to record what we were doing to help bars and restaurants during COVID, for example. And so there are a lot of these stories that do go unnoticed, but we want to work together to do a lot of great things and continue moving forward in a positive manner. I know we can do this. And I also want to say on the record that, because I have had a lot of questions, but that I did not know anything until it was simultaneously released to the media. So I've had a lot of emails that we're not responding to. I don't want to get the agency into any more trouble with the current ongoing investigation. And so I think the chair has answered a lot of that, but I also would like to, you know, be on the record that I was not a part of this in any way, unequivocally. And so I just want to, those questions that folks have asked me, just put it on the record in my own voice, so that, you know, news media who are coming and wanting to know more and so forth. I also want to protect the agency, and knowing that there's a lot of legal things that are going on, that there is a current ongoing investigation. I'm limited into, I don't want to stumble and do anything to make things worse at this point. So I think that you can have that information from me, which is to say, I had no knowledge of this at all. And I was not a part of this unequivocally in any way. And so I just want to move forward with all of you and continue to do a great job. I know better days are on the horizon.
Thank you, Commissioner Cohen. I want to give, just before we adjourn, I want any one of the commissioners to say whatever they want on this. So this is your opportunity. I had the opportunity on behalf of the commission to respond because this was the proper place to do so and the only place to do so. I hope the press understands that. Commissioners, whatever you want to say, say. If you don't, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Yeah, just, again, thank you for stepping up, Craig. I think, and Jennifer said, and Chair, both did an excellent job conveying our feelings, and our sentiments. I think that, just to say again, it has been a lot of work the last several years trying to, one, build this program on the cannabis side, to look out for the industries during COVID, trying to, just help this whole process get on its feet. It's been, countless hours. And the most important thing to me at this point is just righting the ship, restoring the credibility, restoring the public trust, and making sure that all of this is not just for naught. I mean, this has been very important to all of us. And so I look forward to, much better days ahead, and getting, continuing the positive momentum that we were on, because there's been a lot of great work done over the years.
I'll piggyback off of that. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Jennifer. I just so everybody, I think everybody is aware that we had no knowledge whatsoever into this internal investigation, and we were learning things in real time with the press, and oftentimes I was learning things as the press was putting them out there. That's how I was learning things. And this investigation of a few is really disheartening to me, because it has cast a shadow over this great, great agency. This is a great public agency. And, we've all seen it's made headline news all across the nation. But I firmly believe that, the unfortunate actions of those few should not damage, nor should they undermine the good work of this staff at OLCC that you perform each and every day. So again, my hat's off to you. Thank you for clocking in each and every day and doing the good work for Oregon. Thank you.
Betty, come on, say something.
I'm so proud to be here and so proud to be part of this organization, and mostly, well, not because of just this team here, but the partnership that we have with all of you, with the employees, with the state, with the goodwill that is out there. And I echo there, we cannot let this take us down. We are, because of this, we'll be better on the other side of this, because of the quality of the staff in this organization. And I'm still extremely proud to be partnered with you guys to move this place forward. So thank you for that.
And the last word before I adjourn is I just want to thank all of you. We work very good as a team together, and it's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure working in this commission, and we all know it. We deal very well with each other, and we're proud of it. Meeting adjourned.